Hello, everyone. The little button is telling me that we are live. How are you doing? Happy Wednesday to you. Wednesday. Let's see. What god was that named after that? Each day of the week has its own particular god. So, hello, Wednesday. How are you doing? How's everyone out there? Good to see you. Boy, I didn't think it was going to get this full this quick, but hello. Gary, Brian, good to see everyone. How are you folks? I'm just looking here into the chat room. So I don't typically do that a lot because it's like trying to text and drive at the same time. So, what a time we live in. A lot of my material deals with what so often seems to be the obvious, but when we take a different point of view and look at it, it really, hello, Brian, how are you doing? Jason, everyone, hello. Steve, good to see you. Hello, Hidden Harvest. So, and it's when someone says, like a question that, I won't get into a specific one in a general term that brings cognitive dissonance, it's quite amazing to see how the human mind immediately tries to fill in the gap in reality. And a lot of times that has to deal with the individual's core beliefs. And it's quite fascinating to see how that can happen on an individual basis and how it can happen on a species-wide basis. So the theme and the discussion point for tonight, and hello, Warrior Princess, how are you doing? We'll get you on the month of June, my dear, so we'll get that worked out. Hello, Deborah Tucker. How are you doing? So I look at myself as a citizen here in the United States. That's where I live. And that is the nation of my origin. And so when I hear stories that, number one, have foundation of truth, you kind of just go, For instance, I bring before you evidence A. On September 10th, 2001, Donald Rumsfeld had a news conference at the Pentagon, whereas he announced that there had been an audit and approximately $9+ trillion, trillion, not billion, trillion, could not be accounted for. The next day, 9/11 happened. No questions were ever brought up about that. It just completely got wiped away, literally. Always wondered why Building 7 went down. Never could figure that one out. Anyway, let's go forward. I take you to September 22nd, 2008. Here in the United States, we were in a presidential election year. The two candidates, one young neocon, Barack Obama, and another seasoned salt dog, John McCain. There was a crisis that hit the markets. This one was worse than the tech bubble of 2000. As you remember, both candidates, one suspended his campaign, the other just took a leave of absence, met at the White House with George Bush, and as the story is now documented, we literally came within hours of a complete financial worldwide collapse. I don't know what the deal was. I wasn't privy to that meeting, and a lot of questions. Now, in the pursuing years, as you recall, there was a program that was put forth by this young administration called TARP. And in that was a bill that totaled $1.9 trillion that was enacted and passed by Congress on an emergency basis. 1.9. In subsequent testimony from Greenspan and the incoming Fed chairman, in before the Senate Banking Committee, under oath, the federal chairman was asked what had happened to what they could account for or couldn't account for was almost $10 trillion that could not be accounted for. The Fed chairman is on record saying he didn't have to answer the question, nor would he answer the question. So we're talking lots of money here. As a U.S. citizen, we're talking extraordinary amounts of money. It has become recently known through several individuals who had past connections with the federal government under the Bush administration and also under the Obama administration, that now, and by the way, let me digress, there has been one senator in the United States Senate that has consistently advocated for a full audit of the Fed. And of course, the Fed has resisted for that. I think if it ever did, in fact, the Trump administration actually pushed this to happen, I doubt if we'll ever see the day of what those numbers actually reveal. Now, I want to bring evidence to you as well that you can see for yourself what I have put together. So, in this presentation tonight, I want you, this is the picture of our sun. This article is, which actually you can see, was sent in actually by a subscriber. Thank you. Backing up what Dr. Albers has been saying repeatedly on our Monday night shows, that our sun is in a very historic weak state. In fact, it's now exceeded all records. Records have been kept since, I think, 1755. Yes. So we are in uncharted territory. Cosmic rays, we spoke about that on Monday night. It is literally, ladies and gentlemen, literally, as I speak, and as you in the chat room are typing and the others who are listening, our DNA is literally mutating. The amount of the cosmic rays that are hitting us because of the weakening ionosphere and stratosphere, that where we get the evidence is that as we look now at the experiments taking place, they started in California in 2015, as you can see, and now it's confirmed. The increase of radiation, cosmic radiation, and these are neurons that are going right through us. And when they hit our DNA, these strands literally explode. That leads to mutation, genetic mutations, which then leads to an impact on our species, on evolution. And this is how it is theorized in one of the hypotheses as to what caused the other species to die off. They had a far greater sensitivity to the elements than what sapiens have today. So I continue. This is from Forbes. Has our government spent 21 trillion of our money without telling us? No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the United States Constitution. As it stands right now, every congressman, every senator, every federal judge, including the past presidencies of at least the past 4 administrations, have broken the law. And apparently, as a major cover-up, as one of the biggest scams on the American people of any government-elected leaders. 21 trillion. It's a lot, folks. We don't stop there. The Washington Examiner. National debt hits 21 million. It's really odd how this number seems to be coming up everywhere. The national debt exceeded 21 trillion for the first time on Thursday, a little more than 6 months after it first hit $20 trillion on September 8th. Now, folks, if you live in the United States and hearing me, you and I are going to have to foot this bill. And the thing about it is, look at this. The federal borrowing has been on a rise again since February, when Congress passed legislation to suspend the debt ceiling. That move allowed the government to borrow as much as it needs to fund the activities approved by Congress. Folks, this is thievery, robbery. Again, $21 trillion. Here it is on missing money. I'm actually trying to get the woman who actually helped bring this out. $21 trillion is missing from the United States government. That is $65,000 for every person in America. That is more than the entire national debt. Well, we now know that that is now outdated. So we're talking a lot of money. As I look around in my city, as I traveled across the United States, I see an infrastructure that is collapsing, outdated. I see debts being run up by every state, county, and city governments. Where did 21 trillion? And actually now you could literally say, probably within all reason, that number may be actually closer to $40 trillion. Who's been raiding the war chest? Who's been raiding our coffers? Now, think about this. This is serious. This is not conspiracy theory. This is not hyperbole. This is actuality. And the question the American people need to be asking is for a full accounting. because there's something else that potentially now could be the black hole that these trillions over the decades have been going into. I present for you, and I will get back to this, a presentation I put together that I believe brings the two pieces together of tonight's story. This is a presentation I put together, the secret space program and the Aboriginals. Now, if such a space program does in fact exist, the type of technology, the, how should we say, unique, exquisite materials that would be required, the amount of just in the bureaucracy of administrating such a program, in keeping it for the most part secret. People say, well, that's impossible. No, it's not. They kept the atomic bomb well secret. And there were documented well over 250,000 people that worked on that project and never knew that they were actually working on what. So this is called the secret space program and the Aboriginals, how I think the two may be connected. So we know the Pentagon has released footage, and what's really bizarre about this, folks, is that they continue to leak out, or I say drip out, more and more information on this encounter that happened in 2004. Well documented now, been out in the press, but now we're hearing stories that these alien craft were harassing our naval ships, that they seem to be playing with our pilots. Again, we're talking $21 trillion, a secret space program. The Aboriginals have not spoken in a manner that they have now, and all it could be titled as a warning is being given. But their voice is but now a voice of many other tribes. I think they both know something. Does it have to do with our sun? Or does it happen to be something that they know is coming that can't be prevented? Now, this happened before. The Aboriginals knew. It has been rumored that there have been secret treaties made with other alien species. Now, take a point of view if you're a religious person. You could say that they've made a deal with either the angels or the demons. Now, I choose to take the point of view that they're nothing more than other species, alien because they're not of this earth. But it's very clear that our elected leaders have in fact made treaties that they have not disclosed to the American people. And apparently, by the evidence of others coming forward, most notably Dr. Michael Sella, who I am reaching out to get on this program, that our leaders have lied and broke the treaties, and now it appears to be it's all-out war. It appears that this knowledge of these treaties, both by individual countries and apparently by so-called representatives of the earth that treaties have been made, which means that you and I, no matter what part of the world you're listening to me on, or at, excuse me, you've been betrayed. We've heard the stories that there is at least 20 or more different species, sentient, intelligent, that apparently sit on some sort of galactic council. That's just one part. Apparently, the universe is as fragmented as we are. And the question becomes, for what purpose? Good or evil? Maybe neither. It's hard to have that concept because we're trained. We've been indoctrinated, brainwashed into believing in that there's only duality. Well, many of us are awaking to the fact that we say no. Duality does exist, but it's not the only thing. Again, when we begin to make absolutes in our science, in our religion, in our politics, whatever it is, it only says that, tattoo fool on the forehead. It means that there's no more knowledge to be gained. That's ludicrous. The question is, are they friend or foe? Listen, there's a lot of thought out there that we're an enslaved races of a species. All religion seems to be, well, how should we say? I was going to say tyrannical. I'm choosing my words very carefully. Dictatorships, either ors. You either believe, and if you don't, you're gone. I encourage you to go over to exopolitics.org. So is this an invasion? We now know a story that was just released last week, that there are trillions of viruses that are falling to the earth from outer space. It's said that before whatever is apparently on its way, that there will be disclosure because there are others who are demanding that our species deserves to know the truth. I encourage those species. I hope you prevail. Now, is this fantasy? Science fiction? Remember, most of the science fiction that I have grown up with is now reality. Have they passed off a secret space fleet as science fiction to get us so indoctrinated, so against each other that when they do show the truth, we reject it summarily? Would seem to be that is the case. We got them. They exist. They're here. Did you know that Star Trek was based on the fact that Gene Roddenberry knew some of the highest in the what we call the shadow government, that this is where Star Trek came from? An existing space fleet run by the Navy, and the military aspect of it, of the guards, are Marines. We've been told that there are secret bases on the moon. I want to bring forth in the evidence that I've been reading Maybe they've already been built in a long time ago. You have to ask yourself, why our planet, we still don't know how we got here. Religions tried to give us myths and legends and stories, but we know that any rational mind knows that that's not true. The fact is, we don't know where we came from. Now, I did a video on this. I told you that the moon is artificial, and it arrived with refugees, us, from a destroyed planet in the astrobelt. You see, humans in many ways are not adapted quite for this earth. The sun is still very harsh for us. In fact, the sun does more damage to us than it does good. So, artificial and occupied? Remember, we're talking now in excess of $21 trillion. This is the theory. I think it's a sound theory. I believe one day it may become much more mainline science. And any way you look at this, whether God is the representation of the head of this council, no matter how you look at it, any God that any religion proclaims to be the God is still an alien. Plain and simple. This is a strange craft. It's called the Black Knight, estimated to have been up there for over 12,000 years. Is it merely an observation deck or something more? We know this. About 11,800 BC, we know a comet hit us. It's in the record. So the Aboriginals, the elders have not spoken. And by the way, the elders there are both the women and the men. But they're talking now. I found this interesting. They have the sacred lands there called the Looking Glass. It's very odd. I did a whole thing on Project Aquarius. Area S4 has the Looking Glass device. And then, with the warning that's coming from the Aboriginals that says that we have 2 years, we have these people, the Inuits. Now, they're the Aboriginal inhabitants of North America and the Arctic. They warned us 6 years ago, and these people know they're long-lived, that a shift of our planet had taken place. And all the evidence is showing that it has, in fact. So, is this merely a premonition? Does this race of people have special knowledge? I think they do. And I think they're warning all of us. So my question in this program, so who did you pay for to live so that you are going to die? Because this is what's literally the point here. Do you know what $21 trillion would do if there's in fact an inbound impact or something of a super flare from our sun, something that they apparently do know? You could build an underground nation for $21 trillion. Look what the Russians have done. The Russians can now put 100% of their population under the ground. I hear the Chinese are doing a massive job in doing the same. How many in the United States do you got a green ticket? And if there is this secret space force, then why aren't we benefiting from the technology? I don't know. So the question I guess I'm looking for, give me 1 second here, folks. There we go. I'm back. Is what's up? I mean, if all this prophecy, all these predictions, and I respect these people, you study them, they're long-lived as well. So we have a race of people on the northern Arctic that have said that the Earth has changed positions. We now have the people of down under that the Egyptians apparently had a great deal of respect for, and now they're sounding the alarm. We have in the United States a raid on the United States Treasury, the people's money, that we have now officials in the government committing high crimes against us who refuse to come forth. Listen, if you're honest, isn't this what they tell us all the time? Well, if you get pulled over and asked by a police officer, well, if you have nothing to hide, what's the problem? Well, let's just use the reverse psychology. Let's demand that the politicians who have been robbing us blind, let's take their salaries away. Let's repatriate what they have stolen from us until they come clean and bring out the truth. Otherwise, we're just a bunch of sheeple, folks. No matter how enlightened you think you are, no matter how awake you think you are, no how spiritual you think you are, you're a fool. If you're in the United States and you've allowed this to happen, then you're asleep. How many of you ever call your congressman? How many of you call your senators? Because if there's something happening that the internet's filled with, you got channels that's all they do. They just simply broadcast the negative and they hype it up. The next disaster. Well, why don't we go the reverse? Why don't we stop this nonsense and maybe say, hey, listen, we're not going to do any more of this crap stories. What we want to do is let's get grounded in reality. Unless we all admit that this is true, there's nothing you can do, so why bitch about it? Because if there's, again, advanced technology that has been developed by the sweat of our backs, my God, we deserve to know what's going on. And if there are a race of people who are plugged into the Acacia record, which I do believe that is what we see here, I'm going to have Lisa Barnett back on. I think that's what we're seeing. And so if there is something inbound, and again, just read Graham Hancock's book, The Magicians of the Gods. The records are there. We know it hit. Now, is this a cycle? Is this something that it's been rumored that President Reagan was advised about in 1987? In which he was told? Now, the legend goes, I wasn't there. The only person I've ever known was the Attorney General, but Reagan said, is there anything we can do to save the masses. And it was said no. I don't know, was a decision then made? The thing about it, I look at this, folks, you just have to be using some common sense here. If we have a Congress that is continuing to spend like a drunken sailor, spending on God knows what, and refuses to be clean about this, refuses to do what the law states, then that means we don't have a government anymore. And what it also means is that we don't care what happened to these tens of trillions of dollars. I say that's nuts. And if they're building underground facilities, if this is what we're hearing from the booms taking place all over, particularly in the Northeast, but the booms are happening everywhere, something's happening underneath the ground. Is it that? I mean, why are the elite? In fact, let me show you something. So give me 1 second here. How about this one, folks? Inside billionaires' bunkers with the richest plan to sit out the apocalypse in luxurious doomsday dugouts. And they've got there you go. How about this, folks? Not bad. Looks like a room at the Ritz. You got to have wine. Technology using holographic imaging. Interesting. Here are some of the exclusive communities. These are actual pictures of the actual bunkers. Gee, I guess the old Hollywood, I guess the B movies will become very popular, I guess. But here you go. What do they know? Now, I know you can have more money than God, but why build yourself one if you don't find at least some credibility into it? I mean, seriously. Look at this. Yeah. I mean, who's got one? Now, I was talking to you, so I'm going to throw in the 5G. Going to talk next week with Dr. Albers on this, and that the 5G and the connecting attack on cancer advancement in the human body. I mean, now even those that have to walk around in that electromagnetic soup are going, well, maybe it's not such a good idea. And of course, here continues up in Pennsylvania, the explosions continue. So, yeah, we got some strange stuff going on, folks. There is no doubt about it. So, I don't know. Conspiracy? Nonsense? I mean, are we just going to continue to live each day and each year? You see, I'll tell you why I gave up on the whole thing about the Nibiru Planet X thing. I was really into that for a while. Did the research, and I mean, I still got files that I'm glad I did. But the problem was I saw the shysters doing nothing but agitating the people by projecting dates. And I saw all the schemes and the scams. And, I just said, well, this is nonsense. This is not the way to approach a terrible, terrible rape of our people, of our species. Listen, if something is coming in and it's going to kill billions of us, I don't know. I don't think that that's cool. So, pardon the dogs out there. I've never heard that out there. But so these are the thoughts on my mind. So if something is coming, now I can believe that there is, in fact, something very feasible as a comet, as an asteroid. I think if it's an asteroid, we won't know about it until it's on our doorstep. And that may be, I guess they think, is the most humane thing to do. I don't know. All my life, I grew up, and I know this sounds kind of bizarre, but it's so true, wanting the apocalypse to happen. I mean, that's what we went for. You know, that's get it over with. And now I'm at that point in my life where I can look back and go, all right, wait a minute. This story's just been told over and over and over again. But when you look at such things as tens of trillions of dollars missing from our coffers, secret space programs, world seems to be on the brink of annihilation anyway. Overpopulation. I mean, you know, people say, well, you know, 7.5 billion people is not that big of a deal. Yeah, it is, folks. When you start thinking about how much it takes to feed all of us, yeah, I don't know. So is there an end coming? And how do we do this? Do we just simply become addicted to the stimulation of the dopamines of the fear part? That's why people love fear. That's why, that's why you go watch horror movies. You know, is that the suspense? People say, I don't go and do that. Well, if you watch mysteries, people love being afraid. It's that stimulation, and it's addictive. Maybe we could alter that. Well, all right, folks. I hope this was at least somewhat, informational, stimulating. Maybe it was kind of the good mind coitus that we all need. But, I tell you, if there is an end coming, I refuse to merely sit and do the same thing I saw past generations do. Not going to do it. I'm going to stand up for our species. I'm going to shout my voice wherever I can. I'm going to find others who will shout with me. And we're going to do something that we haven't done before, and that's take responsibility for our species. And put aside religion, put aside politics, put aside this so-called moral compass that everyone seems to talk about that goes upside down, and for the first time say, we don't need you politician, we don't need you preachers, we don't need any of you deceivers. What we need is honesty. And the honesty has to be, we're fed up with this. There should not be the billionaires out there. Let me just tell you, all these cats that have made money off of us. They use our information. They manipulate that information. They should be paying us the royalties. And now they're turning that very money as a weapon against us, corrupting what was already a corrupt system already. Well, I'll probably get the censors on this one. Anyway, we can do this. I do believe that we can stand up. We can join the elders of these beautiful races of people, learn their ways. Do you know something I found out about the Aboriginals in Australia? They're persecuted. There's a lot of racism in Australia against the Aboriginals. I mean, it's terrible. And these people have so much to offer all the other races. I, for one, am going to listen to them. I don't like the idea of 2 years, but, you know, there has been a lot of speculation that the Mayan calendar, which was the end of the long count, we have been in a progression of the new count. And this is what we're experiencing. I don't know. Are we experiencing time distillation? Are there, in fact, alien races that have enslaved us, have robbed us of our resources, of our sovereignty, have stolen our divinity from us? Have we become nothing more than automatons that just simply walk around thinking that we're actually accomplishing something when in fact we're doing nothing at all? We live and we die. I don't know. I look back at 6,500 years of history, and I haven't seen our species advanced 1 inch. In many cases, I believe that the argument could be validated that the technology of today, of the generations coming up, they are less intelligent. They have a less capacity of using cognitive abilities. They can't remember. They live on a very shortened process of how they do with information. That's a change in species, folks. I don't know. Are we seeing an age of magic? Are we learning that we've been living under a spell? That when we look up into the sky, we think we're seeing a blue sky with a solitary object up there we call the sun. Maybe nothing more than a projection. Who knows? Well, oh, yeah, I love that. I was promoted to God last. Doug, high five to you on that one, buddy. All right, folks. Well, this has been fun. This is the things I think about. And again, some great books out there. I'm going to do my best to get Dr. Sala on. He has written some phenomenal books. This is one I'd recommend so everyone can see this. It's quite interesting, and the companion book with that is this one here. So if there's foundation to what Dr. Sala, PhD, astrophysics, I mean, I think we have some pretty good company with Dr. Albers, Dr. Miller. So, folks, if these people are saying that there's foundation to this, and particularly with Dr. Sala, then we need to be listening. And we need to be asking, we need to be demanding on our government, where is the accounting of the money? Who stole it? Who got rich? You know, we have a national debt, and debt is nothing but slavement. The borrower will be the indentured servant and slave to the lender. Something's not right. So, all right. Tomorrow night, I'll be on my radio show over at the Artist First Network, the Steiger Perspective. We're going to continue in this discussion. It's multifaceted. That's the problem with it. There's no one particular angle that you can come at this, because when you do, it's much like a crystal. It has so many different facets to it that it can become mesmerizing and you can really get lost into these tangents. So that's why I have all of you here. Anyway, folks, I appreciate you. Have yourself a great evening. I'll see you on Friday night. I'll be bringing another special subscriber on. We're going to be talking about the strange stuff that's going on in those heavens. Be also, I think, be going on over on the Slightly Slanted Truth, I believe, Steve. So, and I'm still writing the book. And anyway, all right, folks, be good to yourself, be good to those around you, and be good to our species. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.